far-right animal abuser Furry, best known for their fursuit's blonde bowl cut, attend Furthermore 2023. And did it succeed like that? Furthermore is a furry convention in the Baltimore metro area that began in 2013, relocating to the Washington metro area in 2015. In 2019, it peaked at 1,487 attendees, and in 2020, just before the COVID-19 pandemic, saw 1,466. The vaccine rollout in 2022, it saw 1,232 attendees, or 16% decrease. With their hotel room at the Hyatt Regency, the main hotel, with 300 roommates reduced the cost. Learning from my mistake from Anthony New England 2023, I booked a hotel room for 4 people. Late Thursday evening, I was driven down to the train station and boarded the Washington D.C. train early Friday morning. I didn't even try to sleep during the 3-hour train ride. I had only 3 hours to get to the Crystal City, Virginia hotel and unload my bags, which took 45 minutes. When I got to the hotel, my credit card was declined, so I had to use my debit card. While I didn't have enough money to cover the carriage, I was unable to book early. I left my bags, then went to the ATM in the grocery store, but they didn't accept cash, so I had to use a credit card. They also charged for bags, so I carried my food to the hotel. While waiting for my room, which I needed to store my stuff, the registration line got very long. However, one of my roommates had a car and let me store my stuff there for now. I headed over to the registration line, patiently waited an hour to get registered. I got my badge and a convention shirt. I then headed to opening ceremonies and a few panels, one about balloon tying, lobbying, and the history of the fandom. I was able to get a hotel room, and we dropped off our stuff. And all this cooler steel was loose and notified the hotel staff, where someone fixed it. There were a game show, one about the history of conventions, and one on transformation. A roommate who was a friend bought some food and we ate together. On Saturday, I attended attendees presented impromptu time travel slideshow presentations, and one featuring boxes for furries to get in and throw. I went over to the Headless Lounge to get my fursuit tag, where I got the number 314. Next was the fursuit landing photo, then the fursuit parade, where I got inflated my giant glow balloon to carry around when I walked with the other fursuiters. Unfortunately, Crusader Cat, a Christian Furry who instantly abused her cat and is affiliated with the Furry Raiders, a conservative furry social group, was there. The group staff free-for-all 2022, where they attended with the shirt, "What furries don't exist." They received negative attention on Twitter, especially when they took a picture of themselves at FurCon AI, where I also took a photo with my giant glow balloon. The convention war stories, Alkaline and Boozy Badger talked about First Square, a furry convention where a nearby abandoned building complex saw a lot of interesting things happen. They're also saying the space for the religious group would cause problems as they alleged certain things happened at the convention, but they pointed out the flaws with their logic. They also bought a solar machine for a convention lounge, which is cheap but require a lot of maintenance and lots of problems. Finally, admit with his purpose, someone spilled oatmeal and he announced to the radio that oatmeal has been spilled. Not only is a code word for money, they apologized when we're no longer able to have a radio in the future. Also, a concert by Tonya Song, a Native American singer and songwriter performing the original works. Also, attendees could ask a tantra, range from advice to horror stories. They gave advice about how to run a convention, along with common problems like selling at hotel rooms. The hotel wants a minimum amount of rooms being sold. If it doesn't happen, the convention will have to pay the difference. This is why it's very important to book with the room block. They also explained they were unable to ensure a noisy floor, as the hotel is near an airport with airlines having a contract for their pilots and flight attendants, showing that they needed to sleep to work effectively. They also discussed the hotel's poorly written alcohol policy, implying no alcohol could be brought outside the property, when it meant they didn't want large amounts being brought in, with small amounts for personal consumption being allowed. There's about time travel and how it could work, while another discussed how furry events are hosted and some things to keep in mind. On Sunday, we had to pack and leave the hotel before 11 a.m. to avoid extra charges. I carried my luggage in 2 bags, but I was able to leave with the hotel until a year later. Alkaline and Boozy Badger will go over several cases of animal law regarding the ownership of pets. There were also the NYC Natural Meetup and a pin trading panel where I got pure trays, but I was able to get your character here and Red Husky pin. Furthermore, later reaffirmed the support of attendees, especially the LGBTQ and POC ones, along with a formal statement implying they removed and banned Crusader Cat. On Saturday, a fursuit building challenge saw 3 mini partial fursuits being made and auctioned off for charity, with the one with the highest bid winning. We went for roughly $100, but the last one ended up going for the most, winning the competition.
In the fursuit parade were 317 suits,
$8,500.
Race for the Fletcher Center, an LGBTQ plus center based in Maryland.
Our attendance this year, 1,620.
Or a 31.5% increase for 2022, the highest turnout for the convention. Do you want to hear what the last furry convention was at? Check out Anthony New England 2023 grew by 50.8% from last year.